Joe Frager again in front of, we're in the King David Hotel at our state dinner in honor of Governor Scott Walker. And we had a large crowd here tonight, a lot of ministers, a lot of Knesset members. So proud, so happy. I just want to ask the governor a few questions. We went today to Samaria, and then we went to the Golan Heights, we went to the Galilee, and I just want to hear the governor's impressions of Samaria, the Barkan family, Barkan industrial complex, and of course the Golan Heights and the Galilee. So
yeah, it was impressive. A great day. I thought it was really impressive, and it's one of those things where I wish I could take everyone in America, or at least in my state of Wisconsin, with me on a trip like this, because I think it would be so eye-opening compared to a lot of the propaganda they hear from some of the media around the world, but particularly in the United States. Prime example. I mean, talking to the owner of the business we stopped at today, talking about his passion for his employees, both Jewish employees as well as the Arab employees. He said about half of his employees are Arab. He says he loves them just like he loves the others. And he pointed out a statistic that you're rarely going to hear elsewhere than right here, that his Arab employees make almost 2.5 times as much money as they would in other jobs within their communities. Just a prime example of how free enterprise under the current circumstances really can lead in going forward. And it ties in well with what we were saying in a number of stops in Bethlehem, in Hebron yesterday, that it's more than peace, it's really about respect.
Right. So today we heard about the Barkan industrial complex, where 2 murders occurred on October 7th, the day your father passed away. Same day, and that shook the entire industrial complex, and yet he still persisted and kept his business going and kept his dreams alive.
Rebuilt that
what is the BDS movement, which you have been one of the major opponents of in Wisconsin and around the country, the United States? The BDS movement attacked the Barkan industrial complex. So what are your thoughts on the BDS movement attacking a man who loves all his employees?
Well, it's a prime example of how not only is it wrong on the surface, on principle, but practically it's also wrong. For the very people trying to do this, claiming they're trying to help Arab people, it's just wrong, because a business like this, if it has to shut down or if it slows production because of the BDS movement, that hurts not only the Israeli citizens there, that hurts the Arab workers that are there. The Arab workers understand that it's in their best interest if they're given the opportunity to work at a job that pays as much more than what they're getting. They can put a roof over their head, they can put food on the table, they can have confidence and security, and they're respected, as the employer mentioned today. Why would they ever, or their children, more importantly, because that's really the fight here. It's not just about the moment, it's about the future. Conversely, we've seen far too many examples of those who teach their children just the opposite. But that's why the more we can talk about good-paying, family-supporting jobs, the benefit of the free enterprise system, exactly what we see happening in America, combined with respect that goes both ways. Another thing you don't hear enough about in the media internationally, respect that goes both ways. That'll be a good thing for people in Israel and around the world.
So we then went, after we visited Samaria, we went to the Golan Heights. We heard from Major General Gershon Cohen. I mean, he gave us some incredible, I think, information about the Iranian involvement in the Golan Heights, or in Syria, opposite the Golan Heights. So what are your thoughts about what America should be doing, Israel should be doing with the Iranian
Well, there's a constant threat there, and it's, as it is throughout the region, overwhelmingly driven by Iran. I remember 4 years ago when I was at that same outpost going through Golan Heights and then looking out at Syria and around the corner at Lebanon, and realizing back then the concern I had, as many others did in America, was about then President Obama's plan to remove the sanctions from Iran, to literally put money in their hand, money that we know would go to state-sponsored terrorism to help Hamas and Hezbollah and others around the world, overwhelmingly target not only at Israel, but ultimately their goal, as someone here tonight said, it's attacking those who worship on Saturday and then those who worship on Sunday. So it's here first and then it's to America. ISIS largely has been pulled back. But people should not confuse, as we talked about the other day, and see again here today on our trip, ISIS may be pushed back, but there are any number of other, insert the name or acronym, because there are plenty of other things. And these people don't give up. The extremists out there do not give up. The jihadists don't give up. And so there's going to be a constant threat here. And you can visually see, that's where the generals giving us not only a verbal tour, but physically showing us the lay of the land. Such a reminder. 4 years ago, I remember when it was ISIS, the threat said, if the Golan Heights were turned over and we're not under Israeli control, ISIS would be drinking out of the Sea of Galilee. We set our toes in the Sea of Galilee today. I don't want that, not only for the people of Israel, I don't want that for America, and that's why we've got to be vigilant.
It may be, although the president's move the embassy to Jerusalem, from a spiritual point and from the point of view that a capital has to be a capital, and you shouldn't just forget about that fact. The Golan Heights might have been one of his greatest moves ever, and I don't think that's appreciated as much as it should be.
No, because as I mentioned, I appreciate the fact that he actually had the guts to do what was required to move the embassy, and that's remarkable. Although, as I pointed out here and other times before, any other country putting their embassy in New York would be a slap in the face to all Americans who know that our government is in Washington. So as remarkable it was given the context, it to me is still a pretty easy solution out there. What he did with Golan, on the other hand, really is remarkable and will have a lasting impact.
I know that we've spoken about this, and I know it's a little premature, but just as he annexed or recognized the annexation of the Golan Heights, this president, we believe, would be the first to recognize the realities of Judea and Samaria. And you heard about sovereignty. The Israeli government hasn't annexed Judea and Samaria. I think ultimately under Bibi, God willing, he'll win the election on September 17th, and he'll annex Judea and Samaria. It would follow suit that under Pompeo, Secretary of State, Vice President Pence, John Bolton, and the President, the A-team, as I call them, that finally, after 52 years, you will finally have recognition of the sovereignty that Nadia Matar was talking about of the Golan, of Judea and Samaria, just like the Golan Heights.
Well, I think there's no doubt that is a logical path to follow. And there's a lot of what ifs. Obviously, the elections that are being called here, first and foremost, as you mentioned, head of the curve. We'll see what happens with that. And then, because you're going to have that kind of leadership, first and foremost, to have the courage to act on something like that, all or in part. And then you're going to have next fall, similarly, that kind of election. And a renewed sense, not only from the president and the vice president, but between his administration, hopefully some more allies elected to the House that put it in a majority position, along with maintaining the United States Senate. And then that's going to be incredibly important, because as we've seen before, incredible pushback from others around the world. And it's going to take incredibly courageous leadership here in the state of Israel, as well as in the United States of America, for even something like that to even be dreamed about being possible. But you do have that kind of leadership right now, and hopefully it'll continue.
I was fascinated by the fact that when you did an interview before, that you mentioned that you were offered cabinet posts, cabinet positions in the Trump administration, which I always suspected, but I didn't hear it from you directly, so I didn't know for sure. And then you chose to run the campaign in Wisconsin for re-election of the president. So I'd like you to just say a few words about that. Yeah. I think your future is so bright. It's brighter than ever after your trip with us to Israel. I hope we can do this again soon, and bring even more people and bring your message out there and let the world hear the message and understand the message and follow the message.
Well, and our hope will be going into 2020, I told the president, where I can do him the most good is being in the private sector for a while, where I can help chair the campaign in the state of Wisconsin. Ironically, today, June 5th, back in 2012, I became the first American governor ever to win a recall election. And on that day, an odd day, a special election, not a normally scheduled election, We received more votes for governor than any person has before or since then in the great state of Wisconsin. Hopefully, we can translate that into electoral success for Donald J. Trump, which I think is, he wins Wisconsin, he will be reelected as President of the United States, and then we'll see what the future holds after that. But it's paramount to get that job done first in 2020.
Well, I expect you to be president of the United States someday too. So don't worry, you have my vote. But I know it's you're pushing for rightfully so, pushing for President Trump right now. But we have to groom our new leaders. So and you're one of them. I assure you that. And God bless you, and your family. And thank you for joining us in Israel. It's such an incredible honor and privilege.
Our pleasure. Good to be with you all as well.